Welcome to the Bible Book Club. Now, some of you have asked if you can give to the podcast, and for the first time ever, the answer is yes. Bible Book Club is officially a nonprofit, and you can give to it. So, what are you giving to? Well, we're rather simple in our structure. Heather, Buck, Haley, and I do this in our free time. That means all of your gifts will be used to reach new listeners. Currently, the podcast has grown by word of mouth and just $1,000 a month of personal funds used to reach new listeners through digital ads. But think about how much we could grow the podcast in 2025 if you gave and we doubled or tripled that monthly spend. Ponder the math and consider giving today so that we can reach more listeners like you. We will put the link to donate in the show notes. Thank you for listening and giving. This is the Bible Book Club,
the book of First Chronicles.
Welcome to the club.
We are back in the studio, and I know you'll notice the difference in the sound for this fourth episode of First Chronicles. But last episode, in chapters 3 and 4, the chronicler dove into the tribe of Judah, starting with David's descendants. Some that we know very well, 19 sons, 1 daughter. They're all mentioned by name. Bathsheba is listed as having the most sons. She actually had 4 sons. It was mentioned there were more children with concubines, but there were no names. David's family became a source of trouble for him, though. His heart may have been a little too soft, and he failed to intercede when his sons took a wrong turn. There was rape, there was murder, and rebellion. Then the focus turned to the line that carried the kingship. The names of the past kings were familiar to us from past episodes of the Bible Book Club when we read Kings, seasons 11 and 12. But the line continued from King Jehoiakim in captivity to the chroniclers present. There were 7 new names, providing evidence that Israel still had a chance to produce a king who would save them, a Messiah. Then the author took a detailed detour to encourage the returned exiles with the prayer of Jabez. Lastly, the chronicler covered all the other descendants of Judah.
Well, here's the setup for this week's episode. Simeon survives. The Transjordan tribes are lost. These are the 12 tribes of Israel continued from the last episode where we covered Judah. Now, recall that the chronicler has chosen a pattern for presenting the genealogies of the 12 tribes. Judah, Levi, and Benjamin are strategically placed at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. Judah's been covered, and the chronicler will quickly move through 4 minor tribes with less than stellar past contributions to Israel. The tribes of Simeon and the 3 Transjordan tribes, Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. Starting with the tribe of Simeon. This tribe is closely related to the tribe of Judah. Both sons of Jacob shared a mother, Leah. Simeon was Leah's second son. You can see Genesis 46, season 1, episode 25 for the birth order story, or check out the show notes for the chart of the 12 sons by mother and their birth order. Of even greater importance to their relationship as full brothers was the fact that Simeon's land inheritance was actually part of Judah's. It was located in Judah. And by the time of David, Simeon was really counted as one with Judah. Now, there was a reason for Simeon's absorption into Judah. Back in Genesis 34, Simeon and Levi demanded that every male of Shechem be circumcised before the prince of Shechem could marry their sister Dinah, which, shocker, they agreed to. While they were still in pain from the circumcision, Simeon and Levi killed them all. In Genesis 49, when Jacob was getting ready to die, he blessed all his sons. Simeon and Levi were not blessed, but cursed. This is what he said.
Genesis 49, starting in verse 5. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Their swords are weapons of violence. Let me not enter their council. Let me not join their assembly. For they have killed men in their anger and hamstrung oxen as they pleased. Cursed be their anger so fierce and their fury so cruel. I will scatter them in Jacob and disperse them in Israel.
The curse required them to be scattered in Israel. For Levi, this became a blessing. They became the priests living among all the tribes. More on them coming in the next episode. For Simeon, it meant that their tribe was absorbed into Judah and reduced by almost 2/3 between the Exodus and the end of the wilderness period. That dropped them from 59,300 men to 22,200 by the second census in the book of Numbers, chapter 26. But all is not lost for the tribe of Simeon. And our author's focus is to be encouraging and inclusive and to reunite all 12 tribes into a nation as God had intended, if he can.
And now let's get to our story in 1 Chronicles chapter 4, continuing from last episode in verse 24, the descendants of Simeon, Nemuel, Jamin, Jarib, Zerah, and Shaul. Shalum was Shaul's son, Mibsam his son, and Mishma his son. The descendants of Mishma, Hamuel his son, Zakur his son, and Shimei his son. Shimei had 16 sons and 6 daughters, but his brothers did not have many children, so their entire clan did not become as numerous as the people of Judah. They lived in Beersheba, Moladah, Hazar Shual, Bilhah, Ezem, Tolad, Bethuel, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth Markaboth, Hazar Suzim, Beth Biri, and Shearim. These were their towns until the reign of David. Their surrounding villages were Etam, Ain, Rimmon, Token, and Ashan, 5 towns, and all the villages around these towns as far as Baalath. These were their settlements, and they kept a genealogical record. Meshobab, Jamelech, Joshua, son of Amizah, Joel, Jehu, son of Joshibiah, the son of Syria, the son of Asiel, also Elonai, Jaakobah, Jeshoiah, Asaiah, Adiel, Jesimiel, Benaiah, and Ziza, son of Shiphi, the son of Elon, the son of Jediah, the son of Shimri, the son of Shemaiah. The men listed above by name were leaders of their clans. Their families increased greatly, and they went to the outskirts of Gedor, to the east of the valley, in search of pasture for their flocks. They found rich, good pasture, and the land was spacious, peaceful, and quiet. Some Hamites had lived there formerly. The men whose names were listed came in the days of Hezekiah, king of Judah. They attacked the Hamites in their dwellings and also the Meunites who were there and completely destroyed them, as is evident to this day. Then they settled in their place because there was pasture for their flocks. And 500 of these Simeonites, led by Pelatiah, Neariah, Rephaiah, and Uziel, the sons of Ishi, invaded the hill country of Seir. They killed the remaining Amalekites who had escaped, and they lived there to this day.
Simeon had 5 sons, but only one son, Shaul, had a lot of descendants. He had 16 sons and 6 daughters. Now, the other 4 sons did not have many children, and the author cites this as the reason the tribe did not become as numerous as Judah, as the curse said. The chronicler ends with a positive about Simeon, something they are doing at this time. They have settled the land and have killed the remaining Amalekites. For Simeon, a tribe so reduced, it must have been very encouraging to have it written that their families increased greatly. So yay, Simeon, you are not lost, just small. They may have been absorbed by Judah, but they have succeeded in retaining an identifiable presence post-exile. One might say that being surrounded by Judah, a strong community for the Lord, had a positive cultural influence that saved them. The same cannot be said for the Transjordan tribes. Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh are the 2.5 tribes that never settled in Canaan, which is located on the west side of the Jordan. In Numbers 32, the tribes of Reuben and Gad, which had larger herds of livestock, requested permission to settle in the land east of the Jordan, as the land was suitable for their animals. Initially, Moses took offense at their request, comparing them to the faithless generation of Israelites that died in the 40 years of wilderness. He was also concerned that this request indicated a lack of willingness to help conquer the promised land in Canaan. These two tribes had a lot of fighting men that would be needed to conquer Canaan. But the tribes assured him that they would first help the rest of Israel conquer Canaan before returning across the Jordan to settle in their desired territory. So Moses granted their request and included half of the tribe of Manasseh because they said they wanted to do the same. The tribes faithfully fulfilled their promise to fight alongside the Israelites in Numbers 32. However, the barrier of the Jordan River created a separation both religiously and politically. Crossing the Jordan was challenging. The river was about 90 feet wide and 3 to 10 feet deep in a good season. There were other seasons when it got much wider and deeper. If you wanted to sacrifice at the temple in Jerusalem and worship, you either had to travel light and swim or take a raft. At a time when there was only one place of worship, to be so far from the center of the religious community hurt these tribes spiritually. Additionally, some tribal misunderstandings resulted in a breach of trust between the tribes on each side of the Jordan. The Transjordan tribes made the mistake of building an altar of their own. The Israelites on the Canaan side, or the right side, which is really the west side of the Jordan, looked upon them with suspicion, which created problems in the book of Joshua. Lastly, because these tribes were more vulnerable to attack and other religious influences, they became idolatrous and were the first tribes by decades to be carried off into captivity. As a result, only a few members of the return exiles were from the Transjordan tribes, and the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh became lost tribes of Israel. All right, next tribe covered is the tribe of Reuben.
Chapter 5. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel. He was the firstborn, but when he defiled his father's marriage bed, his rights as firstborn were given to the sons of Joseph, son of Israel. So he could not be listed in the genealogical record in accordance with his birthright. And though Judah was the strongest of his brothers, and a ruler came from him, the rights of the firstborn belonged to Joseph. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel: Hanuk, Pelu, Hezron, and Carmi. The descendants of Joel: Shemaiah, his son; Gog, his son; Shimi, his son; Micah, his son; Reiah, his son; Baal, his son; and Bera, his son, whom Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, took into exile. Bera was a leader of the Reubenites, their relatives by clans listed according to their genealogical records: Jeiel, the chief; Zechariah and Bela, son of Azaz, the son of Shema, the son of Joel. They settled in the area of Arir to Nebo and Baal-Meon. To the east, they occupied the land up to the edge of the desert that extends to the Euphrates River, because their livestock had increased in Gilead. During Saul's reign, they waged war against the Hagrites, who were defeated at their hands. They occupied the dwellings of the Hagrites throughout the entire region east of Gilead.
The chronicler is usually positive, only speaking the best of the Israelites. But in this case, he can't help mentioning the word firstborn 3 times, and it is not a positive reminder. It's a detail drop, a reminder to all the Israelites of the consequence of sin. Reuben lost the wealth and position of the firstborn. Reuben was the oldest of Jacob's sons. His mother was also Leah. He messed up by sleeping with Bilhah, his father's concubine, in Genesis 35. Now, Bilhah was Rachel's maid and the mother of 2 of Reuben's half-brothers, Dan and Naphtali. It would equate to a man sleeping with his stepmother while his father was alive. Mistake. It was a big mistake. And at the end of his life, when Jacob bestowed blessings on his sons, this is what he said of Reuben.
Genesis 49, starting in verse 3. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, the first sign of my strength, excelling in honor, excelling in power. Turbulent as the waters, You will no longer excel, for you went up onto your father's bed, onto my couch, and defiled it.
As a result, Reuben lost his birthright, which was a double inheritance of land and family leadership. Joseph got the double portion of land instead. That is why we do not have a tribe of Joseph. His two sons became two tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh. Judah got the leadership and the line of David and the Messiah. Reuben did not get much. No king, no judge, or prophet came from this tribe. Eventually, the tribe that started under Moses with 46,500 men gradually faded from Israelite history. Okay, the tribe of Gad.
Verse 11. The Gadites lived next to them in Bashan as far as Salekah. Joel was the chief, Shapham the second, then Jaani and Shaphat in Bashan. Their relatives by families were Michael, Meshullam, Sheba, Jorai, Jachin, Zia, and Eber. 7 in all. These were the sons of Abihail, son of Huri, the son of Jerorah, the son of Gilead, the son of Michael, the son of Jeshishai, the son of Jado, the son of Buz. Ahi, the son of Abdiel, the son of Guni, was head of their family. The Gadites lived in Gilead, in Bashan, and its outlying villages, and on all the pasture lands of Sharon as far as they extended. All these were entered in the genealogical records during the reigns of Jotham, king of Judah, and Jeroboam, king of Israel.
Gad was the son of Jacob's wife, Leah's maid, Zilpah. Recall from Genesis that Leah and Rachel were in a competition for sons, and to double their production, they offered Jacob their maids too. And Jacob took the offer, which must have been God's plan because a nation came out of it, but sister wives and maids make for a messy family life. The genealogy of Gad is different in that it is very short and focuses mostly on geography. Bashan was a very fertile region east of the Sea of Galilee, and of course, everyone wanted it, which led to war, mainly with Aram. Now next, the chronicler makes a little detailed detour about all three Transjordan tribes. And the only reason I can think of why he does this is because he feels guilty that he's been a little negative about some of them. So he wants to bring out something positive just in case any of them come back from being exiled. I think he's being political. He's covering his bases.
That's nice of him.
Yeah.
Verse 18, the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh had 44,760 men ready for military service, able-bodied men who could handle shield and sword, who could use a bow, and who were trained for battle. They waged war against the Hagarites, Jetur, Naphish, and Nodab. They were helped in fighting them, and God delivered the Hagarites and all their allies into their hands because they had cried out to him during the battle. He answered their prayers because they trusted in him. They seized the livestock of the Hagarites, 50,000 camels, 250,000 sheep, and 2,000 donkeys. They also took 100,000 people captive, and many others fell slain because the battle was God's, and they occupied the land until the exile.
So the author boosts the records of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh by highlighting a few glory days. They were excellent military men and did as they promised to fight with Joshua and secure the promised land before returning to the land they had chosen on the other side of the Jordan. In addition, they waged a good war against the Hagarites, who are associated with the Ishmaelites, Abraham's descendants through Hagar. But all of these successes occurred before the exile, and unlike Judah, there is no list of Gadites who returned after the exile. They, like Reuben, were lost.
I just want to say that I love the chronicler's rose-colored glasses here and how positive he's being. And also, this is a Bible bender for me, Susan, when you taught us last episode, or maybe it was the episode before that, he's really focusing on the good things and not on the bad things, because before that, this would just seem like yet another list of names of people that some we know and some we don't. But it's so interesting to think of it through that lens that and I want those rose-colored glasses too.
I know. Well, that's why they really think this is Ezra, because he's trying to build the team again. He feels called to build the nation of Israel. And so he's being very positive, thinking, well, there's no one from Manasseh here now, but somebody may come and I want them to have something written down good about them so everyone will accept them and everyone will bring them into the fold. And so that's why I think he goes back and goes, I better put in something good about them.
And there's your leadership lesson for today.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the half tribe of Manasseh.
Verse 23, the people of the half tribe of Manasseh were numerous. They settled in the land from Bashan to Baal Hermon, that is, Senir, Mount Hermon. These were the heads of their families: Ephir, Ishi, Eliel, Azriel, Jeremiah, Hodaviah, and Jadiel. They were brave warriors, famous men, and heads of their families.
The tribe of Manasseh was large. By the end of the 40 years of wandering, they had grown from 32,200 to 52,700. This growth points to the blessing that Jacob bestowed over Joseph, the father of Manasseh. Listen to what he said.
Genesis 49, starting in verse 22. Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring, whose branches climb over a wall. With bitterness, archers attack him. They shot at him with hostility, but his bow remained steady. His strong arms stayed limber because of the hand of the mighty one of Jacob, because of the shepherd, the rock of Israel, because of your father's God who helps you, because of the Almighty who blesses you with blessings of the skies above, blessings of the deep springs below, blessings of the breast and womb. Your father's blessings are greater than the blessings of the ancient mountains, than the bounty of the age-old hills. Let all these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince among his brothers.
So the tribe of Manasseh was from that fruitful vine of Joseph. And so was the tribe of Ephraim. And, you know, we've talked about the northern and southern kingdom a lot. The northern kingdom was often called Ephraim. So they became the leaders in the northern kingdom. All right. Once again, our author makes a detailed detour and addresses what became of these Transjordan tribes.
Verse 25, but they were unfaithful to the God of their ancestors and prostituted themselves to the gods of the peoples of the land, whom God had destroyed before them. So the God of Israel stirred up the spirit of Pul, king of Assyria, that is, Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, who took the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh into exile. He took them to Haelah, Habor, Haerah, and the river of Gozan, where they are to this day.
So the half-tribe of Manasseh on the Transjordan side were numerous but unfaithful. So the author felt no need to list the names of the descendants of Manasseh because it seems like a direct cut, but they're nowhere now. There's no one to record. Along with the Reubenites and Gadites, they became guilty of the same sins for which the Canaanites were being punished when they took over the Promised Land. The consequence was that they were the first carried into exile by Assyria. Now, in case you're a huge fan of Joseph, the other half of Manasseh, who lived on the right side of the river, fared a little better. In fact, the post-exile returnees were primarily from the tribes of Judah, Levi, Benjamin, the other half-tribe of Manasseh, and Ephraim. So Manasseh and Ephraim were Joseph's sons. So yay, because I am a fan of Joseph, so I hate to think that he was written out of the story. Mm-hmm. Now back to the Transjordan half of Manasseh. They became affluent with all their land and livestock and did not recall what Moses warned of in Deuteronomy, which of course led to them thinking they knew better and they started worshiping other gods. But listen to this because they should have remembered it.
In Deuteronomy 8, starting in verse 10, when you have eaten and are satisfied, praise the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe his commands, his laws, and his decrees that I am giving you this day. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine houses and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, that thirsty and waterless land with its venomous snakes and scorpions. He brought you water out of hard rock. He gave you manna to eat in the wilderness, something your ancestors had never known, to humble and test you so that in the end it might go well with you. You may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to your ancestors as it is today. If you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and worship and bow down to them, I testify against you today that you will surely be destroyed. Like the nations the Lord destroyed before you, so you will be destroyed for not obeying the Lord your God.
So this half tribe of Manasseh was set up for success. They came from Joseph, a blessed forefather. They wanted this fertile land. They got the land. They grew rich on it. And then they did exactly what he said not to do. They became proud and thought they knew better, and they started following other gods. They were warned, but failed to remember they had every opportunity for success. I think there are a couple of lessons here for us. First, access to the Word of God and a strong Christian community is vital. They left that. They made that choice to be on that side of the Jordan. When immersed in an ungodly culture, we are susceptible to its influence and affluence. Moses warned of the pitfalls of following other gods and becoming proud of wealth. It is not easy to resist the world when the pleasures of the world are so readily available to us. In Romans 2, Paul warns this.
Romans 2, verse 2, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and prove what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will.
So be in the world, but not of it. That's where Manasseh failed. They chose a more worldly culture and they became part of it. They conformed to it. So to trust in God and seek His will is to depend on Him as the sole resource for all we have. There is a tension there, a balance between finding a Christian community to fortify your faith and being a light to those who need faith. In the book of Matthew, he says this.
Matthew 5, starting in verse 14, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven.
So that's the tension, putting together what Paul said and what Matthew said. Be in the world, but not of it, and be a light in the world. It's not easy, but we can learn from the mistakes of the Transjordan tribes. Being close to the Christian community, a Bible teaching church, a place of worship, is what we need to renew our minds so that we can test and approve God's will, His good, pleasing, and perfect will for us. Like, don't follow idols. Then with the mind of Christ, our light will shine even brighter for those in the darkness, and we'll be fortified to do that. Last point. The chronicler, by placing these tribes together, is making another subtle point, one that Paul makes in the New Testament. He said this to the Galatians.
Galatians 5:7. You were running a good race. Who cut in on you to keep you from obeying the truth? That kind of persuasion does not come from the one who calls you.
The culture and separation from the other tribes cut in on the Transjordan tribes' race, and they ran off course. Compared to the tribe of Simeon, who was surrounded by Judah and recovered from their bad start, they ran the race well and survived. Paul wants us to know what the chronicler was drawing out by this comparison.
In Ephesians 6, starting in verse 10, finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms.
Paul encourages us to be strong in the Lord, to stand against the devil's schemes, and to finish the race victoriously. Do not let anyone cut in. Simeon did not have a good start, but he made a recovery and finished, and that is the goal. Manasseh had a great start and let his wealth and distraction with other cultures cut in on him, and he didn't finish well. On this side of heaven, there will always be a race to run. So we will leave you with that thought. Do you have a community of believers to exhort you? Are you regularly worshiping in church? Are you in the race, and is your faith stronger than it was like a year ago? Or has someone or something cut in on your race, and are you at risk for running off course? In the next episode, we will discuss what I suspect is our chronicler's favorite tribe, the tribe of Levi.
We've got merch. Great news! Bible Book Club sweatshirts are here, and they're only available while supplies last. So if you want to snag yours, go to BibleBookClubPodcast.com/store. They're only going to be available while supplies last, so hurry and get yours. And if you're enjoying the Bible Book Club, why don't you share it? And then you and all your friends can listen and discuss. New episodes drop every Monday.